Communication Intentions, created by Chantal Mayer-Crittenden, Jessica Vincent, Serena Bond, and Céline Saint-Onge. Communication is a vehicle used all over the world to express feelings and needs of all ages. From birth, even before a young child can speak, he demonstrates a desire to communicate. In other words, there is a communication intention. Young children demonstrate communication intentions to express their needs and wants, and later, to create social contact. This video will walk you through the different reasons your 0 to 36-month-old child wants to communicate with you, the different ways he or she communicates, and how to identify your child's communication intentions. A child's communication intentions take many forms and serve many functions. During the first 8 months of life, your child mainly communicates his or her needs. For example, when they are hungry or when they are tired, they communicate by crying. As your child grows up, his or her communication functions will include not only his or her needs, but also his or her wants. Before discussing the reasons your child wants to communicate his or her needs and wants, it's important to be able to identify the difference between an intentional act leading to communication and a non-communicative action. In order to do this, your child's behavior must meet 3 important criteria. First, when your child is trying to communicate, he should make good eye contact and walk up to an adult to demonstrate that he wants to communicate specifically with him. Second, it should be obvious that your child is trying to direct the adult's attention to something in particular, whether it is an object or an action. In other words, it should be obvious that your child is trying to convey a message. Third, your child should be persistent in trying to communicate with adults when they don't respond right away on their first try. When identifying a child's communication intentions, we try to identify 3 elements: the range of communicative functions, the frequency of communication attempts, and the means by which the child tries to convey his message. During the first 3 years of a child's life, nonverbal communication decreases, while verbal and conventional communication, which has common meaning in everyday life, like nodding to signal yes, increases. Communication attempts become more frequent, and the range of intentions that the child wants to communicate becomes wider. In terms of the range of communicative functions, we can divide your child's communication functions into 2 categories: proto-imperatives and proto-declaratives. These early communication functions appear between 8 and 18 months. Proto-imperatives are used to get the adult to do something or not to do something. These functions include requests for an object, such as an object that is beyond the child's reach, requests for an action, such as playing peekaboo, and the act of refusing something. As for proto-declaratives, they are used to demonstrate something to an adult, such as an object or a photo. Your child will also use proto-declaratives to get attention on himself. Later, between 18 and 24 months, your child begins to have a more complex level of communication. Your child is now using the speech functions. They therefore incorporate some social regulations associated with communication, such as responding when someone is talking to them. At this stage, there are 3 communication functions. The first is the request for information, where, for example, your child can ask for the name of something by saying, "What that?" The second is acknowledging receiving a message. The child will either repeat a word in the sentence you said or nod his head to indicate that he recognizes and understands what you said. For example, when you say to a child, "Look at the birds," and they say, "Birds." The third is the response to a request for information, where the child shares relevant information. For example, when you ask your child if he wants more milk, and he answers, "Yes, more." The child can also communicate this intention, among other things, by means of gestures, sounds, or words. When it comes to how often your child tries to communicate, It's important to note the number of times your child wants to communicate. At 18 months, during a social interaction, a child communicates on average 2 times per minute on an intentional basis. In children of 24 months, the frequency becomes 5 times per minute intentionally. The ways in which your child tries to convey their message change as their language develops. From birth to 4 months, your baby produces cries or sounds which are vocal reflexes, indicating that they're either hungry, afraid, etc. Between the ages of 4 and 6 months, your child is now producing vocalizations, or sounds made by the mouth, using vowels like I-A. This is also where we will see your child produce their first laughs and cries of joy. At around 6 to 7 months, we will see your child produce what is called babbling, which is repeated sounds like ga-ga-ga and ba-ba-ga. Then, between 8 and 18 months, your child uses gestures to communicate more often, such as pointing at an object. At this point, the gestures will be combined with vocalizations that sound like words, like Bo to show his favorite toy boat, or Ba for a bottle. Between the ages of 18 and 24 months, your child uses more conventional words like mum, dad, boat, milk, more, again, etc. to communicate. Finally, after the age of 2, your child produces more and more words. Their sentences and their use of language becomes more complex as they get older. Your child uses 2 to 3 word sentences, such as daddy take ball, to express themselves. In this video, we cover the different reasons your 0 to 36-month-old child wants to communicate with you, the different ways they communicate, and how to identify your child's communication intentions. Here is a brief overview of the information discussed in this video. A communication intention is the desire to communicate. Communication intentions become more complex as the child grows. Young children start by communicating their needs, like hunger, and later by communicating their wants. The frequency of communication intentions increases as the child grows. The ways in which your child tries to get his or her message across changes as the language develops. Before the age of 8 months, the baby lacks the ability to communicate intentionally. After the age of 8 months, children begin to use gestures, vocalizations, and words to communicate intentionally. If you have concerns about your child's language development or communication intentions, consult a speech-language pathologist. We have included a link in the presentation that will take you to the College of Audiologists and Speech-Language Pathologists of Ontario's website, where you can find a speech-language pathologist in your area.